Let's get started. Hi, Nicole.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this today. It's great to see you. Um,
I love talking about my work.
cool. Well, first, let's start there. Tell us a little bit about where it is that you work.
So I work at the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory, and we are located in St. Leonard, Maryland. And we are the repository for all of Maryland's federally owned and state-owned archaeological collections. And we are also home to our conservation facility, where I'm the head conservator.
Cool. Jeff Pat, that was my very first job in archaeology, was at the Mac Lab many, many
It's a
moons
beautiful
ago.
site.
It is. I love walking down there still, going for walks with my family. So, what is your favorite thing about your job there at the Mac Lab?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, obviously I love being in a facility where I get to work with curators and archaeologists and conservators all in the same building. That's kind of a really unique situation, which allows us to collaborate in ways that maybe other facilities aren't able to. But even though my responsibility is primarily caring for Maryland state-owned archaeological collections, because of the infrastructure and the amazing staff that we have here, we're also able to take on external contracts. So nothing in private practice, but assisting with projects from other states, other federal facilities, Army, Navy, National Park Service, historical societies, basically anything that's in public view or ownership. And the variety of material that comes in really keeps the job exciting. You never know what's going to come in from day to day. As conservators, sometimes we have specializations. Like I love rusty iron and moldy wood. That's what I enjoy. But as you know, working with archaeology, you have to have an understanding of every single material type because you never know what's going to be coming out of the ground from day to day, and it keeps the job fresh. That's my favorite part.
You love rusty iron and rotten wood. That's spoken like a true archaeologist. How many other professions say that? Well, to that point, so tell us about how you got into archaeology and what has kept you in this profession all these years.
So I think I wanted to be an archaeologist from age 7, and just kind of tried to pursue that career as much as I could. I started with my first excavations when I was in high school for the University of North Carolina. The gentleman there decided that they wanted to keep me, so I guess I ended up going to undergrad there, and worked mostly in classical archaeology, actually. So I spent a lot of time in Greece. But I went over to the dark side and started, applying that chemistry degree that I was also earning, and found out that I could actually merge the two into kind of a goal of being an archaeological conservator. And since then, I've worked all over the world. A lot of my research was in Romania and England before I moved back to the States. And I've been with the Mac Lab for almost 14 years now. Yeah, and I enjoy consulting with projects all over the country and learning new things on a regular basis. That's kind of the best part about this job.
For sure. No, we're so lucky to have you here in Maryland. You're just such a great resource for so many archaeologists to turn to. So, but I want you to tell us now about your topic for Maryland Archaeology Month. What did you write about?
So, as much as I wanted to choose an artifact from Maryland, we just happened to have one of those external contracts come in, and the muskets were kind of at the forefront of everybody's attention because we were working so diligently on them. So the muskets came in from a vineyard site that's adjacent to Manassas Battlefield, and they're dated to the First Battle of Bull Run. And we've worked with that museum previously, so we have a really good relationship with them. But we also know that whenever they send us any muskets, they're always loaded. They are always still have active black powder in them. And so obviously for both, the research aspect of it, trying to understand the material better and the context, in which they were, used as part of that battlefield site, we also have to take into consideration staff safety. And so we x-ray them to indeed confirm that, of course, there is still active black powder in them. And then we use those x-rays in a variety of different ways. It obviously informs the conservators how best to proceed with treatment, to understand how stable the wood and the metal components are, and maybe how we need to then design a treatment that is going to best preserve them, while keeping as much of the original material intact as possible. But it also guides us into knowing exactly where to go into, because we can't go down the muzzle of the rifles and the muskets. It isn't it would damage the material too badly. We would end up causing more damage than good. And so we have to go in through the side, and to actually kind of pinpoint that exact location where we can go in, access the powder through wet drilling, and draw that out to the best of our ability. And we work in conjunction with a firearms specialist to do that work.
So where are these artifacts now? Do you still have them at the MAM lab? I'm curious.
They're here. They are here. If people are in the area and they want to come through the MAC lab for a tour, they are currently in treatment. So there's a bunch of different things that go into the conservation of these types of materials. The wood is obviously the most sensitive of the material components that are part of the muskets, and so we have to really treat those first. If we were just to let them dry out naturally, the wood would start to shrink and warp and distort, and we'd lose a lot of that dimensional information that's so important to the interpretation. And so we have to go through a process of impregnating the wood with a bulking agent, is what we would call it. Basically, it's a waxy substance that we can impregnate into the wood, and then we use our vacuum freeze dryer to draw the moisture out without damaging the wood, while leaving the waxy substance behind, which kind of gives it that dimensional strength and support that it needs. And then we can start to tackle the iron components, which are a little bit more robust, but at the same time have poor long-term aging. So we have to make sure that we don't introduce an additional corrosion cycle to that, so that they don't deteriorate any further.
A lot of complicating factors. And I just want to give a shout out for MAC Lab tours. If anyone's watching, go down to the MAC Lab and take a tour. They're free, and you'll see some really cool behind the scenes stuff.
Yep. Come by every Thursday and the first Friday of the month.
There you go. So the last question is, you use so many innovative technologies to, in your work and your conservation work. How do you think that these are going to be improved upon in the future to help archaeologists learn even more about the past?
Well, so X-ray in particular, which we're kind of focusing on for this article, is actually underutilized in a lot of ways. It's not a new technology. It's a really old technology. But because people think it's so inaccessible, maybe it's not utilized as thoroughly as we at the MAC Lab would like to see it being utilized. For so many artifacts, it's not practical to treat every single object. It's labor intensive and expensive. And so if we can document, particularly our metals, in such a way that, we can capture that information, whether it's identifying the materials or just understanding their current state of preservation, that really helps curators and researchers in the long term. So we're really trying to encourage more archaeologists to utilize X-ray for that purpose. And just in terms of being able to share and disseminate information to the public and to our colleagues, the advances that have been made in the digital use of X-ray radiography, so that we're able to share those files more easily, has really improved, I think, people's general understanding of the uses that X-ray can have in the wider kind of archaeological process.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us today. It was so good to see you.
It was nice to see you too.
Thanks.